So again, good afternoon to everyone. So while waiting for the next reporter, which is all about techno-managerial skill, let's have a look on something video clip on how to conduct a feasibility study project management training. So let's just watch.
Today we're talking about how to conduct a feasibility study. But first of all, I want to start with clarifying what a feasibility study is. Basically, it's an assessment of the practicality of a proposed plan or method. Basically, we want to know, is this feasible? Some of the questions that may generate this, or we can hear people asking, are, do we have or can we create the technology to do this? Do we have the people resource who can produce this? And will we get our ROI, our return on investment? So when do we do the feasibility study? So it's done during a project life cycle, and it's done after the business case, because the business case outlines what we're proposing.
Wait lang. Isa lang sabaan kayo.
Minsan ang sabaan daw tayo.
Isa kay maapektuhan man gud ang ang video sound. So please mute muna your microphone.
Is it a product or service that we're proposing? So why do we do this? The reason we do this is because we need to determine the factors that will make the business opportunity a success. Well, let's talk about a few steps that we do in order to conduct the feasibility study. Well, first of all, we conduct a preliminary analysis of what all's involved in the business case and what we're analyzing and what we're trying to determine is feasible. Then we prepare a projected income statement. We need to know, what are the income streams? How are we going to make money on this? Where's the revenue coming from? We also need to conduct a market survey. We need to know, is this a demand? Is there a market for this? Are customers willing to use this product or use this service? The fourth one is plan the business organization and the operations. Like, what is the structure? What kind of resources do we need? What kind of staffing requirements do we have? We also want to prepare an opening day balance sheet. What are the expenses, what's the revenue, and to ensure that being able to determine if we're going to make our ROI. So we want to review and analyze all of the data that we have, and with that we're going to determine, we're going to make a go, no-go decision, meaning are we going to do this project or this business opportunity or not. Well, here are some of the best practices to use during your feasibility study. One is use templates, tools, and surveys that exist today. The great news is data is becoming more and more prevalent. There are all kinds of technologies. There are groups that they do nothing but research, things that we can leverage today. We want to involve the appropriate stakeholders to ensure that input is being considered from the different people involved. We also want to use, again, the market research to ensure we're bringing in good, reliable data. We also, do your homework, meaning act like as if this is your project, if it's your money. So do your homework and do it well and make sure you give credible data. So ultimately, in the end, what we're doing is we're producing and we're providing a feasibility report. So in that report, think of this as like a template. So what you're going to do is give it an executive summary of the business opportunity that you're evaluating and the description of the product or the service. You want to look at different technology considerations. Is it technology that you're going to use? Are you going to build the technology? What kind of product and service marketplace? And being able, again, to identify the specific market you're going to be targeting. Also, what is the marketing strategy you're going to use to target the marketplace? And also, what's the organizational structure? What are the staffing requirements? What people do you need to deliver the product or service and even support it? So also we want to know the schedule to be able to have the milestones to ensure that as we're building things, that as we're spending money, that we're beginning to bring in income to pay, and knowing when we're going to start recuperating some of the funding. Again, which also ties into the financial projections. Ultimately, in this report, you're going to provide the findings and the recommendations. Again, we'll probably talk about technology. Are you going to build it? Are you going to buy it? What's the marketing strategies for the specific marketplace? Organization, you may have some recommendations for whether you're going to insource the staff, maybe you're going to outsource some staff and what that looks like, and also financial recommendations. So this is a little bit about the feasibility study. And if you need a tool that can help you with yours, then sign up for our software now at projectmanager.com.
Okay, so that's it about feasibility study. So you can see now on the video.
Feasibility study. But first of all, I want to start with clarifying what a feasibility study is. You can hear people asking.
Okay, so as you can see, no, meron talagang parts of the feasibility study in making the report. Kaya ito yung mga executive summary, yung description, technology or product service, marketplace, marketing strategy, organization, schedule, financial projections, at saka mga findings and recommendations. So, ito yung dapat ninyong i-report in your feasibility study. So, this has been already reported actually by, of course, the previous groups, no? And so if you're going to select feasibility study as your proposal, so you follow the procedures, no? Like the conducting a preliminary analysis. Wait lang. Yeah, ito. So, meron dapat siyang projected income statement at market survey at saka yung organization ng business and balance sheet, and you would be able to make use of mga graphs, mga applications sa let's say sa Excel, no, to prepare and analyze your data. Whether it's like making a graph kung sinong higher, or when we say what's the trend using regression analysis. So may I know that regarding sa inyong statistics, kung gaano na kayo kalawak with the study of your statistics? Anyone? Okay, but before that, may I know kung ready na ang yung group na magre-report sa Techno Managerial? Ready na ba? Marag nawala ang mga members dari ay. So anyway, if they're not still ready, then just take your time muna, kasi we can explore a lot on your choice na proposal. So, sino ba yung mga group 1? Kayo ni kayo John Ray? Yes, John Ray.
Yes po, ma'am.
So ano
Hindi
yung
po, ma'am.
Yeah, may I know kung ano yung chosen proposal ninyo as a group?
Di ba, nagsabi po ako sa iyo, ma'am, last time na umalis po ako sa group 1.
So, ano na yung ninyo? Final.
Alam mo, yun na yung signal ko, ma'am.
Okay. So how about the rest? Have you actually selected na a proposal for your group? So anyone may just answer the question kung ano yung mga naisip niyo ng mga proposals na gagawin. Manager ang techno-manager work-based corporate training program. Sige, let's try to watch this one. Okay, so actually, no, yung tiningnan natin
You
is
see, we edit a lot of
yung tiningnan natin is actually yung they this group, I mean this company that are offering mga managerial work-based na corporate training program. So they're offering programs on the different aspects of technology management. So as you can see kanina, no, ang daming aspects of technology, no, starting from we have mga innovations, no. So they have listed yung mga characteristics of a good management no? And there are also certain aspects of, so lahat yung mga like credibility, we have information technology. So that's one of the technology na where management is practically needed, no? And banking and financial services. So even kanina na mention yung mga oil and gas, no? So amazing. And even port management, healthcare, and aeronautics, aerospace, artificial industry, intelligence, retailing natin, no, that one. So manufacturing, life sciences, sa healthcare, no, ang dami. So all of that actually involves management system. No? So in the techno managerial study, therefore, you are going to study a particular technology, no, and how to manage that technology. So that is what is meant of the techno managerial study. So in the report, supposedly, they're going to, since we are focused on agriculture, they're going to study the vermicomposting technology and its utilization and actually its impact. Kaso parang hindi pa ata ready sila, no? So none of them is not yet around. So according kay so let's just have a discussion of your proposal to make. So may I know if knowing almost we are done with the different reports, are you ready now to make your own proposal? Or do you still need some more example or time to research? So I can give you actually time to research, no? Kasi in the before we do the presentation, you can have your time or discussion. But then we are still going to meet like for even like 15 minutes, no, para kasi paano ba naman kayo magkikita-kita din through din, 'di ba? Through discussion. Profitability analysis sila John Ray. So group 8 na si John Ray, and they're going to make a profitability analysis. So we already have 10 minutes left. So maybe the techno managerial skill we'll have definitely the report next time. Now let's just watch some profitability analysis. Profitability analysis. So let's know muna this is 7 minutes, so we still have 9 minutes, so we still have time to do it. Can I skip you?
The ultimate goal of any business is to generate a sustainable profit. Profitability analysis provides an opportunity for both business owners and managers to evaluate the ability of the business to generate profit in the future. The most common profitability ratios used to assess the profitability of a business are 1. The asset turnover ratio, 2. Return on total assets or ROA, 3. Return on stockholders' equity or ROE, 4. Earnings per share or EPS, 5. The price earnings ratio or PE ratio, and 6. Dividends per share. The asset turnover ratio can be computed by dividing net sales by the average total assets. The average total assets can be computed by adding total assets for a 2-year period and dividing that by 2. For example, Greenfield Gates Company has net sales of $905,000 in 2017. Its total assets were $650,000 in 2016 and $780,000 in 2017. The asset turnover ratio would be $905,000 divided by the average of $650,000 and $780,000. The result, 1.27, indicates that the company can generate $1.27 in sales for every dollar of asset it employs. The return on total assets is often referred to as return on assets, or simply ROA. This ratio can be computed by dividing net income by the average total assets. For example, Greenfield Gates Company has net income of $350,000 in 2017. Its total assets were $650,000 in 2016 and $780,000 in 2017. The return on asset ratio would be $350,000 divided by the average of $650,000 and $780,000. The result, 0.49, indicates that the company can generate 49 cents of net income for every dollar of asset it employs. It is important that you see connections among all these ratios. For example, the denominator in the return on asset ratio and the asset turnover ratio is the same, average total assets. However, the numerator in the asset turnover ratio is net sales, while the numerator in the return on asset ratio is net income. Net income is a subset of net sales. Therefore, ROA will always be lower than the asset turnover ratio. How much lower depends on how efficiently the company is operating. Ideally, a company would want these two ratios to be as close as possible, which would indicate that the company doesn't spend much on cost of goods sold and other expenses. Return on stockholders' equity, or simply return on equity, is also referred to as ROE. This ratio measures the amount of income a company can generate using the funds stockholders have invested. For example, Greenfield Gates Company has net income of $350,000 in 2017. Its total stockholders' equity was $400,000 in 2017 and $450,000 in 2016. The return on equity ratio would be 0.82. This 0.82 figure indicates that the company can generate 82 cents of net income for every dollar it receives from an equity investor. Again, it is important that you see connections among all these ratios. For example, the numerator in the return on assets ratio is the same as the numerator in the return on equity ratio. However, the denominator in return on equity is equity, which is a subset of assets, the denominator used for return on assets. Therefore, return on equity will be higher than return on assets. How much higher depends on how much debt the company has. Only if a company has no debt whatsoever, then return on equity and return on assets will be the same. Earnings per share, or EPS, is the amount of net income that is allocated to each outstanding share of common stock. EPS can be computed by subtracting preferred dividends from net income and dividing that figure by the average number of outstanding common shares. The average outstanding common shares is the beginning balance of the common shares outstanding plus the ending balance of common shares outstanding divided by 2. Suppose that Greenfield Gates Company has $350,000 in net income for 2017 and average outstanding shares of common stock totaling 27,500. In 2017, the company paid $25,000 in dividends to preferred shareholders. The earnings per share would be $11.82, which is the portion of net income hypothetically allocated to each share of common stock. Earnings per share leads to the price-earnings ratio, also known as PE ratio. The PE ratio measures the market price of a common stock on a given date compared to the earnings per share. A higher PE ratio is indicative of market confidence in that particular stock. The PE ratio is computed by dividing the market price per share, assume $37.45, by the earnings per share. A 3.17 PE ratio indicates that the market is willing to pay more than 3 times the amount of earnings per share for that share of stock. The higher the PE ratio, the more confident the market feels about the future performance of that stock. Dividends per share is similar to earnings per share. In earnings per share, the investor measures how much net income was available to each share of common stock. In dividends per share, the investor looks at how much dividends is available to each share. To calculate dividends per share, divide the total dividends paid in a year by the number of shares outstanding. Suppose that Green Gates Company paid $50,000 in dividends to common stockholders, and that there were 60,000 shares of common stock outstanding. The dividends per share would be 83 cents, which means that investors are receiving 83 cents in dividends for each share of common stock they own.
Okay, so that's it, no, on profitability analysis. So I guess the explanation was very clear, and it just shows you that how do you get the for this explanation on accounting, they use the ROE, but in agriculture we actually use the ROI, the return of investment, and kasi in a particular business, so you're going to need the ROE, or the return of equity. So then there you have, just review the video if you want to master on how to compute those ROE, and its function on how do you share the dividends or the sharings in a group company. So we're less than 1 minute now, so I guess the next reporter, please be ready by next meeting. If possible, the next reporter, you can prepare a video so that we will not keep on waiting for you, kasi we only have 45 minutes every session. So if you have questions and clarifications, more questions, so you can always chat in the group chat or in the Facebook group. And whenever you have submission again on your modules, so please submit that in the Facebook group. I prefer the Facebook group kasi kung individual messages, I have to still search your name, and like kaya baka ma-miss ko or ma-delete ko, so it would take me time.